we will be able to now Where is Philip? Today we're going to talk about the current open field meta in Rise of Kingdoms, and as you can see we're going to go from 1 march to 7 marches. Well, 7 marches is a little bit too much because what I wanted to do today is I want to make this video from a low spender / casual player perspective. Now, starting with first 3 marches, the reason why we are not going for the first march, the second march is because this is for like an endgame tier list, and when you're in the endgame, your goal, your minimum goal should be 3 marches at least. And it's been like this for years in Rise of Kingdoms. When you are going for 3 marches, it should always be 1 from each troop type, because the idea behind it is always the best march from troop type, let's say A, will always be better than the secondary march from troop type B or C. And that's why when you're going for your absolute minimum, which is again 3 marches, you're going for 1 infantry, 1 cavalry, and 1 archers. Now, these 2 are the best infantry commanders, and these 2 are the best archer commanders. So these are going to be, even though, yes, Ragnar and Liu Che, on paper, it's not the best pairing when it comes to synergies, because Ragnar is all about skill damage. He doesn't have a significant debuff other than like his drain effect. And Liu Che is all about smite damage. So as you can see, there's an anti-synergy, but it's just both commanders are extremely powerful. It just works. Simple as that. So these 2 are the best infantry, these 2 are the best archers. When it comes to cavalry though, we have the latest generation commander, King Arthur. Of course, since we don't have a lot of combo damage synergies in the game, he is going to be the secondary. And to primary to him is going to be either Huo or the one who just refuses to die for years now, Nevsky. I think both options are really good, really powerful. Like, you cannot go wrong with either choice. The thing that I want to mention in here is that some people may think Huo is better, some will think Nevsky is better. What I want to say is, if you already have an expertise Nevsky, and if you're going to run 1 cavalry march only, do not try to quote-unquote upgrade it to Huo and spend all those sculptures and then bench your Nevsky. Nevsky Arthur works so well as well. I have Arthur expertise, Huo expertise, and Nevsky expertise. I tried both combinations, and even sometimes Nevsky works better. So don't try to upgrade, as I said, your Nevsky to Huo to pair with your Arthur. If you already have Nevsky, go with Nevsky Arthur. If you have Huo, go with Huo Arthur. It doesn't matter. You cannot go wrong with either options. What's going to be different between going with Huo or Nevsky is that Huo is going to be more risky because he's more squishy, but he could be more rewarding based on the open field scenario. Nevsky is going to be more consistent. You might get like insane reports with Huo or very bad ones, but with Nevsky, even though most likely you are not going to be able to exceed those incredible reports that you can get with Huo, it's just going to be more consistent. So there is more room for Huo, either up or down. But for Nevsky, the room is smaller, but at least it is more consistent. So as I said, it doesn't matter, go with whichever you want. But basically, this is the only little conversation we had was about the cavalry. The rest is, I think, simple. Ragnar, Liu Che, Zhuge Hermann, Huo Arthur, or Nevsky Arthur. Now, if we go up to 4 marches, things get a little bit different because we have 2 options here. For those 2 options, most people think that it depends on which pairing is better. Now, I will say, when I go up to 4 marches, I prefer to go either infantry or cavalry. Later on, I'm going to explain why we are not choosing archers for our 4th march. That's mainly because of our budget and our limitations, but as I said, it's going to be either infantry or cavalry. Now here, it's really not about which march is better. Let's say if you're going to go for cavalry, you can go Nevsky Arthur and Huo with Joan, or you can go Nevsky Joan, Huo with Arthur. Both combinations are going to work. If you're going to go for infantry, this time we are going to split Ragnar and Liu Che, and our 2 march infantry configuration is going to be Ragnar with CPO, and then either Liu Che with Alex, or if you invested on him, William Wallace with Liu Che. Now, which option is better? Is it William, Liu Che, Alex plus Ragnar CPO, or is it Huo Joan, Nevsky Joan, or the other way around? The reason why I'm saying it doesn't matter is because what you really need to pay attention here is, since we have, again, I'm emphasizing this, we have certain limitations as low spenders, free-to-plays, casual players. What we need to look at is what we already have. Because even though, let's say, Ragnar CPO is better than the secondary cavalry march, but if we do have better equipment for secondary cavalry, if we do have better armaments for secondary cavalry, then there is no point for going for that infantry march, because even though, let's say again, as an example, it is on paper, commander-wise, it is better. For us, cavalry is going to perform better just because we have better equipment and we have better armaments. So what matters for you when you go up to 4 marches is what you have. However, when we go up to 5 marches, things are a lot more clear, because obviously we already have the 5 marches as well, because as I said, for 4 marches we had 2 options. So for 5 marches, we are just going to use both of these options. Now we have 2 infantry, 2 cavalry, and 1 archer march. Now, let me explain why until this point I always stick to 1 archer march. It's actually quite simple. Archer march is just very demanding. The reason why I'm saying it's very demanding is because number 1, they're going to get targeted fast. Number 2, they are squishy. And number 3, they are slow. Since they are squishy and they get targeted fast on the open field, they're going to cost you way more resources. Yes, they will deal a lot of damage, but as casuals or low spenders, we cannot care about dealing as much damage as possible. That is for high spenders. What we care about is the efficiency. And archer marches, even though they deal a ton of damage and Hermann has an amazing debuff, they are not super efficient because, again, squishy, targeted, and they are slow. And the way that you fix that slow is you simply work on your tier 5 boots, legendary tier 5 boots, and it is a hefty investment. It's going to give you 10% plus extra movement speed, and yes, you will feel it on the field when you are using them. It's going to be way better to maneuver with them or micromanage them, but again, as I said, it is a hefty investment, and that's why we still, until that point, until we fix our 5 marches, we did stick to 1 archer only. But of course, despite all those downsides, when we go up to 6 marches, if you can somehow, now we will of course include 1 more archer march for 2 reasons. Number 1, again, the same logic that I explained at the start of the video. Any secondary march from any troop type is going to be better than any tertiary march from a different troop type. And since we already have 2 infantry and 2 cavalry, it's not going to be very ideal to include a tertiary march from those troop types. So instead, we are adding an archer march. And with this archer march, the second reason, we will be able to now Where is Philip? Alright, so I added Philip myself. I hope it doesn't look so ugly. Yes, with our second archer march, we will be able to add Philip to our lineup. Because Philip is really good with archers, just because he gives the extra movement speed. And also, from his triple stats skill, he gives attack for cavalry, he gives defense for infantry, which is still good. A lot of players actually try Lucia and Philip, it works really, really well. But I think the best option is using him with archers, because now it gives health instead of attack or defense. And to be able to add Philip to our lineup for a secondary archer march, we have 2 different options. What you're going to do is you're going to use Zhuge Liang with Philip, Hermann with Yisong. These 2 marches are working so well if you're using 2 archer marches and if you don't have Ashurbanipal. Ash is pretty good as well, especially the synergy between Ash and Philip is really nice. Let's put YSG right here and let's add Ash. Now, if you take a look at Philip's and Ashurbanipal's skills, Philip gives you the chance to recast the active skills. And from his expertise, Ashurbanipal is going to get random bonuses every time an active skill is triggered. So not only Philip is boosting 2 super important stats for Ashurbanipal, which is health and movement speed, there is also this synergy between their expertises. Philip triggers more active skills, and from the expertise of Ash, you get a bunch of different random bonuses. So this is a really, really nice 2-march archer setup. However, if you do already have YSG, because investing on a brand new commander from scratch, especially to an MGE commander, it's a big investment. And again, I'm making this list from a low spender casual player perspective. So I'd rather get the best out of my already expertise commander. And in this case, we are going to use Zhuge Liang with Philip and Hermann with YSG. And this march is, I think, a little bit underrated because Hermann provides a lot of good things for YSG, whether it's a little bit of a tankiness, movement speed, and especially since in this one, you can also use Hermann as primary when you pair him with Zhuge Liang, but most people prefer Zial's active skill firing off first in the open field. But if you're using with YSG, you need to use Herman Primary. And since you have the support and versatility, you have more access to extra movement speed. So Herman Primary with YSG Secondary is a very underrated but a strong archer march. So this would be a great 6 march setup for you before we move on to the 7th march. For no reason, this is a free-to-play, low-spender, casual player tier list. 99% chance you're not going to be able to unlock your 7th march. Even if you can, you won't probably have the either armaments or equipment for that 7th march, but still, I will briefly mention that. But before we do that, I want to talk about low investment options for these marches or these commanders. So let's say we are using 6 marches and this is the configuration. We have not invested on Ashurbanipal because, again, in my opinion, if you do have all those extra sculptures, this is going to be better. Ash with Philip, Zial and Herman as your 2 archer marches. But since we are trying to get the best out of our already expertise commander, we are going to use this 2 archer march configuration. So that is the first thing that you're going to do to make this cheaper. The second thing is going to be, instead of expertising Herman, you're going to use him as 5551. So you are going to save around 300 sculptures. For this march, you're going to be using, if you don't have the sculptures, you can use CPO as 5551 again. Because yes, CPO's expertise do increase the skill damage, but the second portion increases your rage gain speed when you're hitting silenced enemies. And since the release of Ragnar, number of Guans on the field are reduced pretty dramatically, and that's why that expertise is not as important as it was before. Yes, at the end of the day, you want him to be expertise, but it is not mandatory. You don't have to do it as soon as possible. For your Nevsky John, I would say max your Nevsky or Nevsky Arthur and Ho John. Again, I'm repeating myself, but I want to because maybe someone just jumped to this part of the video. Like, it doesn't matter which cavalry march, cavalry configuration that you are using. Between these 4, I would say you want all 3 to be expertised. But Joan, you can use her as 5115 if you want to save a lot of sculptures. If you don't need to save that much, then 5515 is the better option. And from there, I think you can just hold on to your sculptures, invest on other commanders that we have on the list, and Joan expertise could be your like final upgrade. Zhuge Philip, I think both needs to be expertise. Liu Che has to be expertise. Wallace, Alex, I mean, if your Alex is not expertise, triple relic, don't even use him, probably. And Wallace, I would say you again want him to be expertise. Now, this is your 6 march configuration, and that's exactly how you're going to make it cheaper. For your 7th march, we have a bunch of different alternatives, right? We can include Belisarius, we can include William, or we can bring Guan to the mix. So we can use like Ragnar Alex, Guan CPO, William Wallace, and Liu Che. But I will say for your 7th march, just go ahead and invest on a siege march. I think the best one at this moment, even after the release of the latest siege commanders, it is still Gajamada and Cordoba. And the reason why I'm saying invest on siege marches is because, number one, it's going to give you a different gameplay experience because it's a total different game style, or fighting style, I should say. They are not versatile, so you cannot use them in like every single situation. But in cases where they're supposed to be good, if you don't mess it up, they are really, really good. When it comes to those altar fights, ruin fights, they are going to do some serious work for you, and you will not be upset that you have invested on a siege march, on a range march. I think I have invested on it on my resale account. Even with super low investments, my Gajamada and Babur march performs so good in the altar. So I would say if you do have the luxury to go up to 7 marches, go ahead and invest on a siege march. You're not going to regret it. For some reason, I made it 7 marches, but probably we're just going to stop at 5. So 2 cavalry, 2 infantry, 1 archer is going to be where you'll end up. But yeah, I decided to include the 6th and 7th march. I'll see you on the next one. Make sure to subscribe for more Rise of Kingdoms videos. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.